be able to handle vehicles that were 10 times as heavy as the vehicles they were actually running. So it was like way overkill, way overbuilt. Kind of like the Barbaro. But as a result of that and a number of other factors, and it was first out of the gate and all the problems that come with trying to do something before you design something, the price skyrocketed in their dollars. It turns out, though, that if we use cost-adjusted inflated dollars and match it up to current stuff, and we look at their maintenance costs, because they've got some O&M costs that they're willing to share with the public, whereas these other private companies are not doing so. Their maintenance costs work out to be about 1% of the cost-adjusted capital cost, even though the capital cost was freaking huge. So, I forgot what your question was.
So you don't want to use that as an example because of the excessive cost of building?
There's two, the guideway is massively overbuilt, and the vehicles handle, I think, in the neighborhood of 12 to 15 people apiece.
And so how much population in that town?
The town probably has a population around 30 or 40,000, but the university, I think, is handling probably about 50,000 riders a day.
Okay.
They've
So
got a lot of traffic.
It's a success in the amount of ridership.
Pardon?
It's a success in the amount of ridership.
In the amount of ridership, the low incident of injuries, the cost effectiveness, because we're dealing with a space where there's a significant vertical difference between one station and another station because it's built on the side of the hill kind of a thing.
Okay. Does it have vehicles, cars, whatever you want to call them, without operators?
Cabs without operators, yes.
Yeah. Okay, well that's...
So it's computer controlled using what technology?
Oh my God.
God, I think they're still using discrete components on the boards. Back in the mid-70s,
Oh my
early
God.
70s.
I don't even know how we did anything in my
4,000 lines of code or something that got us to the moon, I don't know.
Oh, I don't know how they...
So
it had to be clever instead of...
It was rugged.
I remember being a programmer in the 70s, 80s, 90s, so yeah, a whole different world than the software that could be created now. I mean, is there any software for this type of thing? I mean, there's automated vehicles, so
there should be something to help
There's
out. Well, obviously there's some software because we've got Abu Dhabi, Swinchen Bay, Heathrow, Morgantown. However, I don't think I'm going to be using any of their software. There is a guy by the name of Gene Nishinaga who worked with BART control systems for lots of years and retired a number of years ago, and he has developed a system that he's looking to sell to folks, I think. And right now, that's kind of my favorite flavor of stuff.
at least he's a Bay Area person.
Because he's in the Bay Area, and I can punch him in the nose if I have a problem, I don't think.
Right.
So have you tried to contact any foundations yet to talk about the initial financing?
No.
I was thinking if you could identify someone who might be interested. It seems like you make a very good presentation here. Not only would you have potential money, but you get some allies with expertise and fancy degrees and all that stuff, which would really help. Now I don't know the names of which foundations. You probably have some ideas, Rob. But the other thing would be something like the Silicon Valley Leadership Group, who are very into transportation. Have you considered going to them?
I've spoken on occasion with the head guy of what's his name?
Oh yeah, Mayor Ricardo's friend, yeah. Does he have any interest in this?
Not yet.
Is there somebody over there who's a special expert in transportation who you might want to sit down with?
Could be.
I'm just thinking if you got an ally, whether it was Silicon Valley.
How about Assemblyman Canson Chu? Would that be an ally?
That would be good.
Okay. Maybe the Advanced Transit Association, maybe Eugene Nishinaga. So those are the first 4 letters of support I have received. If you would like to be high on this list, submit your letters sooner rather than later.
You know, if you could get somebody who was willing to put up a large chunk of the original money.
That's not my problem. I don't have that problem yet. Maybe that's the way I should say it. My problem is getting some okay from the city of Milpitas that I can go out and actually do this. Even if I have a big pile of money sitting over here.
What I'm saying is money usually buys good response.
Yes.
If you
Prior
can get somebody
commitment.
interested in investing in this thing.
Well, let me try it this way. Let's say Brian here has $60 million hanging out. You know, he's got actually a $6 billion fund, so $60 million bucks is 1% of what he's got to deal with. And he's got the money. Brian, I want to build this PRT system in Milpitas. What's your first question?
Well, I'm a foundation, I'm a nonprofit foundation. So if this is going to set a precedent for the country, which is going to benefit in all these different ways that you set out, I'm really interested, and I'd like to assign my expert Joe here to work with you. He's got 18 PhDs, and I'm sure he'll help.
That's not a question. If I were you, my first question would be, oh, you're going to be building this in Milpitas, huh? What's the city think about this?
Well, I mean, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
have to get both
Hey,
sides.
I can always get an egg.
But you've been working...
If I got the chicken.
The only thing, Rob, is you've been working...
Milpitas is the chicken.
You've been working really hard here on this for a number of years, you tell us. And it just seems like maybe if you got some more expertise to work with you, it might help. I don't know what other folks think, but...
Could be, could be.
And just the fact that you've got money that's committed is going to say something to the council members.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't, I can't see a foundation saying, yeah, that's a great idea, we'll give you money even though the city of Milpitas won't give you permission to
No, I'm
do
not saying
that.
to be continued.
No, we'll give you money if you get
Yeah.
Well, you say you have the money, you got somebody willing to develop it if you can get the proper permits and things to start putting this up.
Maybe that is the way to approach it, rather than to approach the public agencies first, yeah.
So you can enlist the Sierra Club members over the whole South Bay to write letters to people and say this is a demonstration project. And, you know, people in the Sierra Club, they know people in foundations.
Okay.
And they know people that care about transportation, they know, climate crisis and all that. Also, I belong to Orchard City Indivisible, and we often have people come and give talks. So, and we have 100 people every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday, yeah, I've been there a couple of times.
Okay, so I think if, like you say, if you get allies, and somebody in the Sierra Club knows some big foundation people that are interested in transit.
Okay.
So, you know, we're only getting a couple people here, but I think we're all on board with this as a great idea. Having sat, you know, I've lived in the Bay Area my entire life, and I've sat in traffic, and I know I've been around Milpitas. I don't live there, but I go there often enough and just sit on those highways, and to not be able to cross the, you know, the train tracks, all that, it's very frustrating. So we all have buy-in.
The thing I like the most about this is it is the last mile solution. A lot of
Well, I would
transit.
say it's a last mile solution,
Yeah.
because you're talking to somebody that rides electric bikes and scooters. You know, so the last mile is not an issue for me. But I get your point, and I agree with you. Yeah, this is a
It's
great way
easy.
to do the last mile.
Is there room for a bike in the cab?
Yes, yes. Let me take a look at the hardware here. Page comes before I. Hardware. So, it's basically just a truss structure. Here it is in the steel form. And you can see this is an L bracket, basically. So this surface here and this surface over here, which you can't really see, you just see the edge of it right there. But those are the surfaces that the wheels of the vehicle ride on.
Have you built that, is that a test track? Or test
This was built for the Minnesota State Fair, thinking about 6 to 8 years ago. Because, folks have been working on this technology and trying to get this up and running for at least 30 years. And the folks in Minnesota, which is where a lot of the activity was happening, said, hey, let's do this and show it off at the fair, So they built, 50, 60 feet of guideway, and a control mechanism. They went there and they gave people rides. That's the bogie inside, to which the cab is bolted on the top. Here's some drawings of what the guideway stuff might look like, the supports. Here's the bogie from a different angle. Size. This is the switching mechanism. This is the answer to the question that I got a while ago.
That traffic study that's coming out in December, is that something the city's doing?
Yes, the city is contracted with a consultant to do a traffic analysis, and Karina Dominguez, asked, she was kind of skeptical. I said, hey, we got traffic congestion. I know you live at the north end of town, and I'm talking about the south end of town, and you haven't got direct familiarity with it, but let me go off and do a traffic analysis. So I spent a couple of 3 days and put together something that I think will be probably more detailed and more substantive than whatever comes out of the consultants, because they're not focusing on this particular area, they're looking at the entire city. And there's, if anybody's dealt with consultants and their reports, they generally don't come back and tell you anything you didn't already know. But Karina's been burned once before someplace, and I think that fear is causing her to be overly cautious, so she wants to have something to cover her butt with, and that report, which is supposedly coming out in December, it will give her the appropriate cover, I guess.
Have you thought of doing like a feasibility study or something like this?
Feasibility study. What would that look like? Would that look like maybe coming up with a route, prices, number of people in the area that would be served, those kinds of things? We've got those. So if anybody's really interested, I can provide those kinds of details to them. But we haven't gotten to that particular conversation yet. Yes, ma'am.
So you have 2 people on the council that are kind of
They're
either-
supporting.
and there's a total, then there's 3 others,
Right.
one of whom's clearly not going to
Right,
help,
that's
and
what I
2
mean.
that are maybes.
And 2
So you
that are
just got to
maybes.
flip one of those maybes.
That's true. And I believe that Karina would flip if it were brought to the council and she had to make a choice.
Do you know people who live in her, is it a district thing in that city?
It's at large.
Okay.
All 5 are at large.
So you just got to get a lot of the townspeople to write her a letter.
Right.
Write
So what I've
letters
been waiting for
all
was
of
to
them.
find out when the heck it was going to be on the agenda. But
Well, I'd say write the letters now. Who cares when it comes on the agenda?
oh yeah, and that's why I had these other 4 already.
Okay.
And we've got something from Rocana's office that's expected by the end of the month. We've got Dave Cortez's office is looking
Great.
into it. I expect a statement from them. And then there's 1 or 2 other possibilities out there.
And also the residents in your.
Well, then, see, I've been holding off on contacting the residents because, first off, they can turn things around a lot faster than an elected official can, and because I was waiting to find out when the event was going to happen, when they were actually going to have it on the agenda and they were going to talk about it, because that's when I want anybody that can to actually come down and come into the chambers to show, that people really want this.
But you got to build that months ahead. Because, when did they announce the agenda? A month ahead? 2 weeks ahead?
Well, they've got a rules committee that's supposed to line things up for the next meeting or 2. So it's the next meeting 10 days from when the rules committee, subcommittee happens, and then, 2 weeks beyond that period.
To develop 30 people that'll show up, you need to
I need to
way
start
sooner
earlier
than 2
right now.
weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're going to request a date, just like we did the move to amend thing, right? So you're going to request a presumably, and they'll say,
Okay, so I requested a date back on March 29th, and several times since then.
So have you made this presentation to them yet?
I have made pieces of the presentation to them over the years
Okay,
in 3-minute segments.
okay.
But those 3-minute segments have gone by the wayside because that was the public forum, and we used to get 3 minutes for the public
Right.
to talk. Well, the city council is so backed up on agenda items, and they take so long to get through their agendas that things that they have not addressed, that list continues to grow. And there are already about 10 different subject areas that they want to work on, but they haven't decided when they're going to be able to get it into the schedule because they keep spending so much time.
When do any of these elected officials get elected sometimes in the near future?
What about going after the voters of these elected officials, getting their support, and then if the officials don't vote for it, they can be voted out?
Well, now we're back to basically saying, hey, let's just line up support, generally speaking.
Generally speaking.
So I tend to agree with that. It's probably a good idea to start.
And if you've got Supervisor Cortese and you've got these 2 assembly members, these are great people.
Absolutely.
So.
Which is why I started there instead of
Yeah.
looking for money for it. So let's get, like I say, this is a political problem, not a financial problem. I
Well,
can
it's
probably
also a
turn the
problem of
finances
never
when I got
having
there.
done it
So-
before.
Yeah, there's risks involved. I don't think
Yeah.
you could, I wouldn't say that way.
but I mean, at the time, the city council they wouldn't give you a blank check. They would say, go ahead and prepare us some plans, blah, 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 and it's all
Yeah,
going to be
the
contingent.
MOU is pretty clear about, what's expected and what they're on the hook for.
Who is going to be the governing body of this? You said it's going to be,
Blue boards.
yeah, and who's going to be in that?
That will be local people, basically. Local people and
And
organizations.
who will appoint them? Or how will they get there?
I'm not certain yet.
Okay.
But I figure it'll be like any other nonprofit that, fires up. I'll probably be talking to the Silicon Valley Clean Energy folks who have gone through this process relatively recently.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you could get people established in the community, such as somebody out with Silicon Valley Clean Energy, not just to give you advice, but please come on my board. I mean, is this a legal organization?
Not yet.
Well, you can make it for a
Yeah.
modest amount of money, and then attract a board with credentials.
Yep.
It gives you a lot more credibility than,
Absolutely. And at that time, when it really becomes, something real, all that will start falling into place.
yeah, but you can get that in place now.
Maybe.
Sure.
Well, you can, okay?
Well, yeah, well, I don't really have the money to, find.
No, I mean, it only
corporations.
costs us, I think, a couple
But if
$100
you-
to form a nonprofit, and then you have to find people who are willing to be on the board, If you
Okay.
can't find anybody to be on the board, then I think,
Didn't we have a discussion earlier about people bringing proposals and suggestions? And the usual response is, that's a damn good idea. Why don't you go off and do something about that?
well, yeah, but I mean, you get, like you want to go to the Great Wall, so we must.
I figured I'd go to them after I get the city on board, because again, I've tried talking to the Great Mall twice in the past, if not 3 times, and they just keep blowing me off. When I can go there and say, hey, the city of Milpitas thinks this is a good idea, what do you think? Then I got a feeling they'll pay attention. And if they don't, after I get a couple more, and I come back to them and say, hey, we can build this without putting it on your territory. Which do you prefer?
I mean, I've never controlled anything like this, so I don't know, but offhand, I think the ones that would respond last would be the city council.
Then maybe they're the ones that I should be hitting first to make sure that I can get over that obstacle.
They respond to the population they oversee.
Then we're back to her suggestion. That's the folks I should be pumping.
Yeah, and Milpitas has a beautiful library.
Yes,
If
it
you
does.
can get Sierra Club people or other organizational people to help sponsor this type of meeting in the Milpitas library.
Actually, I did this kind of meeting
Okay.
in the Milpitas Library on August 8th
Okay,
and invited hundreds and hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And 20 showed up.
well, 20 is good.
Yes, it is, especially since one of them was Kansan Chu
Okay.
and one of his staffers.
Okay,
And another one was Rokana's staff.
great. So that was a great success. First
It
time
was a
out.
success.
I mean, you get Rokana behind this, and he's a ball of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you sat down with the manufacturers yet and kind of discussed these issues and see if they may know some experts or foundations or something that would be helpful to you? I mean, we're all looking at different avenues. As
Yeah.
you put so much energy and enthusiasm and working on this, we're seeing what's the next step for you that maybe is sort of new for you to do. And we were thinking getting allies is probably the number one that I can think.
Yeah, I think so too, and that's why, just yesterday morning, I invited Joe Lowry to write a letter. This morning was Mike McInerney, and so I'm working it, as I can, but I'm also distracted by a number of other responsibilities.
If you make up a list of things that the 10 or 12 of us can do in the next month,